Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. I am at Sola Fosudo.
And I'm Rafai Seni. Great
Thank
to
God
be here
it's
once
Friday.
again. Oh, yeah?
Well, as one of the pioneer actors in Nigeria, Professor Sola Fosudo does not need introduction, especially to those who witnessed the start of Nigerian home video, now known as Nollywood.
The veteran actor who became popular with now-rested sitcoms like Ripples, The Third Eye, True Confession, and Glamour Girls 1. Yeah, you remember that movie? Lovely.
Glamour Girls.
Among others, has journeyed through two prolific professions, acting and now lecturing.
Fantastic. He joins us to take us through his lives and times as an actor this morning, as well as a lecturer and humanitarian service provider for widows in Nigeria.
All right, but before we get to meet him, let's take a look at this report. We'll be right back. Sola Fosudo, born in 1958, is a Nigerian prolific dramatist, scholar, critic, and film actor and director. He hails from Lagos State and he was trained as a dramatist at the Obafemi Awolowo University and University of Ibadan, where he obtained a master's arts degree in drama. He's featured and directed several Nigerian films. He's currently the head of the Department Theatre Art, Lagos State University, and the university's Director of Information. Some of his selected films are True Confession, Glamour Girls, Ritual, Strange Ordeal, Yawo Alaji, Family on Fire. Apart from all this, Sola Fosudo has been in the vanguard of changing the Nigerian movie industry. Sola Fosudo did say his decision to go back to the academia after a stellar career in the movies and in the film industry left a lot of tongue wagging. But Sola Fosudo has constantly braved the storm and is a source of inspiration to millions of people. Currently is on several projects to try to improve the Nigerian movie scene called Nollywood, which is one of the biggest movie industries in the world.
Fantastic. Well, let's bring him into this conversation now, Professor Fosudo. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
I mean, for me, what is striking is the transition. I'm used to calling him Sola Fosudo, now Professor Sola Fosudo. I mean, when I saw it first, I was like, what have you been up to?
Well, it's one of the things that happen to you when you work in the academia. You hope to rise to the post of a professor naturally. You know, that is if you do what you need to do. You know, publish and then do your job. So you ask for promotion, and from assistant lecturer, you move through the ranks to the post of professor.
How long have you been at this?
This has been long coming because yesterday I had to go through some articles about Professor here, and I found out that as at 1994, you were earning 150,000 naira to appear in movies. And then you switched to the academics. In LASU, you were assistant lecturer?
Well, I joined as lecturer too.
Lecturer too. And then you were paid 5,000 naira.
Yeah.
So from 150,000 naira in the movies to 5,000 naira as lecturer, and you stayed. What were you thinking? This was 145,000 naira difference.
That's 1994.
Well, I don't know what happened, but I think it was an act of God for me to go to LASU. I knew that things would look up eventually in the academic, environment. But I was okay as an actor. You know, 150,000 naira at that time for a film is not every month. You know, you could get a film now and may not get in the next 3 or 4 months or 5 months. You know, so but when you are involved in a job that you collect salary monthly, and then you are happy doing that kind of job, you know, I know that there will be various other opportunities, and I look forward to that at that time.
But for you, it was passion, because you said you could be collecting that amount in a job monthly. There's constantly strike. Let's not forget that. This was the wee hours of, the winding days of the military era.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that. And 150,000 naira in 1994 was close to about $10,000 then. It was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
A whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And because I remember it was only people like you and Alex Osifo that were earning anything close to that.
No, there are a few others. But as I said, it was providential for me to go to LASU. I mean, since being in LASU, one of the things that God used me to do You know, I joined LASU as a lecturer in English department.
Okay.
And a few years down the line, I proposed the creation of a theater arts department. And after a few years, you know, the proposal went through the normal processing within the university, and the department was established in 2001. So that's a major, you know, development. And since that time, we have been training and graduating a lot of young people in theater arts, trained by us, myself and my other colleagues. That's a great achievement for me.
No, I understand.
If I was outside as an actor, that addition to LASU would not be there.
So impacting lives, and you know, you've said that this was providence, it was God's work. But what was the aha moment for you? When did you decide that you were going to leave acting to, you know, have you had, as at that time, had you seen it all in Nollywood? It wasn't called Nollywood then, but were you just tired? Was it not inspiring anymore? What was the aha moment for you?
No, you know, sometimes a lot of things happen to you in life that you really won't be able to explain, you know, why these things, you know, how did it happen and all that. But you see, while I was in school, some of my professors at the University of Ibadan had always wanted me to be around the academic environment. And I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to be outside to practice. So I was outside, you know, practicing, producing and all that. Then suddenly in 1992, I saw an advert in the papers, you know, requesting for teachers who can handle drama and theater courses in English department. I discussed with my wife, and he said I should give it a shot. So I applied.
Even with the salary difference, she was like, go ahead.
No, at that time, when I was applying, I didn't know what the salary would be, you know. Okay. So I applied. A year after, I was invited for interview. Another year, I got letter of appointment to resume. And that was when I saw the salary, 5,000
What did you think when you saw 5,000 naira?
You know, I like looking forward, as I've explained. You know, I knew that there would be growth, there would be improvement, there would be development, there would be promotion, and the salaries will change. And well, I didn't know what will happen to the movie industry. It was precarious, you know, but you can expect some amount of stability and constancy with the university work and environment. You understand? So I thought I weighed the two options, and I thought, look, let me go to the university, and I wanted to also touch lives. I wanted to impact. I have been trained, and I think I've actually acquired some skills and things which I desired to transfer to younger ones.
And obviously that led you to going back to school because, like you said, you had a master's then, and obviously if you're the academia and you're a professor today, you need to get the PhD. So what was that journey? Because you had to go back to school.
Oh, well, the moment you come into a university system, it's a song that you begin to hear from older colleagues that PhD is non-negotiable if you want to continue to move on in the profession. So that was why I needed to go back to do my PhD.
As a day, you said you were not certain of what the creative industry would be like, Nollywood would be like. Looking back now from outside where you are, what would you say have changed? Has it changed?
I'm not really outside, you know.
Oh, you still take on acting roles?
I'm still in.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I mean, you know, the way I describe myself is that I'm a theater artist involved in both theory and practice. So I'm still practicing. Last year, I produced a 52-episode situation comedy for FCMB, which showed on about 5 stations across the country. And recently, I was, you know, I'm currently, you know, in the film that is making the waves now, The Bling Lagosians.
By
Bolanle Austin Peters. I took a cameo role there.
Whoa.
But, you know, I'm part of the process. So
How was it like coming back to take a cameo role after a very long time? I mean, there's been lots of stories in the news. Oh, is he still alive? Maybe he fell on hard times, blah, 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 blah. Until we've been able, I'm sure a lot of people are excited that we brought you out now so they can see you're a professor now. How was it like taking on that cameo role?
Yeah, in my profession, there is nothing, there is a statement which says there are no small roles, but small actors. I'm just describing it as a cameo role because, that is what it is, just about 2 scenes in the film. But for me, it's significant. While I was in school, we did a production, and somebody who didn't say a word, collected the award for the best actor during the after production party.
Interesting.
So whether you have a big role or you have a small role, just do the role well. And all the roles add up to the production, to the film. So because somebody is playing a major role does not mean that the person is more important or bigger than any other person who took a small role.
I didn't quite get a response to my question. How would you describe the industry now? Has anything changed?
Oh, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. I think we need to, applaud the practitioners because they virtually were doing everything by themselves with little or no government intervention until recently, when we've been hearing that some funds have been made available, through the Bank of Industry and CBN, for movie producers. But for many years, movie producers, actors, the entertainment people, they were doing the things by themselves, taking the plunges and making waves. We must give them, kudos for that. The way we used to do things, definitely has changed.
Okay.
The kind of cameras the kind of equipment we used at that time, there was a movement from Umatic to Betacam, then to now digital cameras and so on. So, and the quality of the pictures and, definitely different. The kind of scripts, that are now being produced, different. The kind of actors that you see now, many of them trained, unlike before, that, it's just an all-comers affair. So all these added together, must have put the industry on a better pedestal.
Another thing comes to mind. I mean, you've done well over 30 years in this industry. You started in the village headmaster. That was in the 80s?
Yes.
You were in the village headmaster.
I started with Sounds of Destiny. You may not know that.
Sounds of Destiny.
Produced by Mike Enahoro.
Okay. What year was that?
1983-4.
1983. And so that's over 30 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot has changed. But what are you teaching those you're teaching now about what would be the future of this industry?
Well, we tell them that without any doubt that the future is bright. I'm happy that the movie industry is returning to the cinema. I mean, that's the trend now, and that is what will actually that's the meaning of film industry. When you say film industry, you are talking about the cinema, not what we used to do, produce, record with video cameras and put the films in videotapes or CDs and then sell immediately. So the lifespan of those video films at that time was just about a month, 2 or 3. But now when you do your film for the cinema, you run the film in the cinemas for several weeks, several months. Then,
Professor Fosudo, keep that line of thought. We'll come back to discuss some more, as well as the challenges that still persist after this break. Please join us again. Great to have you back. You're watching the Morning Show here on the Rise News, and we still have with us in the studio Professor Sola Fosudo. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
Earlier, you talked about the difference in the movie industry in Nigeria from way back the days and now, and you said it used to be an all-comers affair. But there are people who still argue that that's still the situation. For instance, the producer, all you have to do is to have some money and come to Nollywood and get people to act movies for you, and then we have sometimes the shabby stories and shabby productions that we have that cannot compete on the international stage. So do you agree with that argument that it's still an all-comers affair? And No, quality control. Do you think there's quality control in the industry?
There is, we have more quality control now. There are several associations and guilds now, which you didn't have at that time. And they are all, checkmating those who are coming into the industry from the area of their own practice. When I say several guilds, Actors Guild, Directors Guild, Movie Producers Association, and so on. Script writers, editors, they all have guilds. So before you can practice as an actor, as a director, you got to be registered with the guild. And there are, minimum entry requirements, including education, some level of education. So it's not like before, where somebody will just wake up in the morning and say, oh, I want to act. And then somehow you find the person acting. Now, it is still true that once you have some money, you can say you want to produce. But people now carefully look, if you are a producer and you don't have the requisite knowledge or experience, you look for professional directors. You look for professional actors. That is what is happening now. People hire those who will make sure that the job, when eventually released, will make a lot of sense.
Let me talk to you a little bit about welfare of Nollywood stars. I'm sure recently you'd seen some things happen to some Nollywood stars. They had died in very, mysterious and painful circumstances, coming out to beg for alms, no money and things like that. And that's why it's so quick. Like I was saying, there were rumors making the rounds that maybe that had been your lot until we're bringing you out now to show to the world, oh, you're actually in the...
my lot?
I know. So once you don't see a Nollywood star in circulation, the rumor around town is, oh, maybe he's falling on hard times, he's not doing quite well, and things like that. And that has been the lot of many Nollywood stars. We've seen the way they have died. No welfare, nothing. We had Fred Amata come talk about it the other day here.
No insurance, health insurance.
No health insurance, nothing. And it looks as though they're left to their own fate.
Well, it's really unfortunate. I have not gone out of circulation. I may not be appearing in so many films because I'm busy in the university. In fact, I've become busier now, since becoming a professor, because there's a lot that you do, to serve the university when you rise to that position. So, people complain that, actors, when they get old, there's no welfare arrangement for them to leave the old age and at least enjoy relatively before the pass on. Whose fault? Partly the fault of, pardon me to say that, the fault of the actors themselves. Everybody, like you asked me earlier, everybody needs to prepare for the future. That's one. Two, the insurance schemes that you are talking about, who are the people that will make it possible? The associations and the guilds. Individuals, may also have insurance programs and policies, but what are the associations doing? These are some of the things that they're supposed to be doing. But I must confess to you, you go to their meetings, you find them quarreling and fighting about positions and other things that do not really matter. So it is the duty of those guilds and associations to, prepare for the future of their members. Do things that will safeguard the welfare and the security of their members. I'm speaking to them now. They should take heed.
But I want to take you up on this. We're talking before you came on the air. You say it's partly their fault. How is it partly their fault? You personally told me that you don't really make any money from this industry.
When did I tell you that? I didn't tell you that.
Yeah, you told me that, you don't really make any money as much as we think it is the case from this industry.
I've said two things about taking care of the future. The individual actor needs to prepare, himself or herself for the time that he or she will retire. Then their associations and guilds need also to do something about securing the future of their members. That's critical. That's very important. Where I'm working now, we have an arrangement in your place of work. you have an arrangement, not individual, you know, of when you retire, maybe pension scheme and all that, you know, insurance scheme, organized by the place of work. So, but for the film industry, the place of work is in the diaspora, but the guilds are the members, you know, who can come together and make plans for their organizations, for their members about the future. That's the point. That's what happens abroad. You know, apart from the individual arrangements you make for yourself, your association, your guild, they arrange pension schemes, insurance schemes for their members.
Let's talk about the potential and talent for the industry. The creative industry in Nigeria is said to be able to, you know, reduce unemployment. It has that capacity because of the number of jobs it creates along the value chain.
Absolutely.
But when you look, there seems to be a recent trend where movie producers and, you know, production companies are using all-star casts to, you know, to score a big hit. Bling Lagosians, Wedding Party, all of these big movies in recent times that have tried to break box office or have broken box office are all-stars, you know, all-star cast. Where does that leave the upcoming actors, the people we want to create jobs for?
If you watch those films very well, you'll find that, yes, you have stars there, but you also have upcoming, you know, actors and actresses. You also have new, you know, talents in those films that you just mentioned. You know, I mean, the Bling Lagosians, there are people there who will tell you, this is my first film.
But how many? Because you have an all-star, you're having like 10 stars. You're having like the Professor Soludo, we are having Professor Fosudo, beg your pardon, and so many other people.
Would you blame the producer? Every producer or executive producer, they want to make money and have returns on their investments so that they can make other films. If you, I mean, I'm not saying that if you use new, you know, talents, the film cannot, you know, make good box office returns. But it is important to use faces that will attract the audience to the cinema. It is important when you are, you know, promoting the film, you know, on television, doing advertising. The people, I mean, they get easily attracted to the faces that they know and they have been following, and they know that they will enjoy their performance when they go to the cinema theater. So these are the faces that you use to sell the films. But I'm also telling you that there are younger ones there.
All right. Before we go to a quick break, and I know
In Mokalik, for instance, I mean, how many stars are there?
You'll definitely come back to answer this. I'll still go back to the issue of making money in this industry. How do the stars cater for themselves or plan for the future when you have an industry where piracy is eating into everything? The other day, last week Friday here, we had the son of
Late Babasala.
Late Babasala. And we all remember the story Babasala, how somebody got his tape. And that's the case even now. Most of your movies are being beamed in other parts of the world and you don't get one royalty from it. So piracy is the case. The reason why these actors and actresses are poor is because there's no intellectual property laws covering their work.
No, there are laws. But perhaps maybe the enforcement is not adequate. But you see, piracy is a global problem. You know, it's not only in Nigeria or Africa, it's everywhere. And it's a menace that must be, you know, checked and attacked headlong. I think the guilds, they have a role to play there. The government, you know, because there are some government agencies that are also, you know, in charge of those regulations. They have a role to play there. Then the law enforcement agencies, they have a role to play there. So there must be some kind of synergy between the practitioners through the guilds, the government agencies, and the law enforcement agencies. There must be a synergy, and it is the guilds that will, you know, start that collaboration.
How much can the guilds do? Because you've mentioned the guilds about 5 times now.
Oh, yes.
When we talk about problems, you keep passing it to the guilds. How much can the guild do in all of this, sir?
You are in the profession. You form an association. For what reason? What is the reason for forming an association? To protect the interests of the members of that association. Simple. Look, there are some associations and organizations in this country that are doing very well. Look at the advertising practitioners organization, association. They are doing very well. Because, number one, most of the people who populate the associations, they are practitioners that are knowledgeable, that are well-read, and that have been in the industry for many years. So when they come together, they know what to do. You know, they even have, they have counsel with the government. That is one thing that, the actors, the directors, the entertainment industry people, that's what they don't have. To interface with the government and form, some kind of regulatory councils. And it is these councils and these guilds that will put on the table, analyze, their professions, the challenges, and how they can solve the problems. They are the ones that will do it. No other person will do it. Are you the one that will do it? Will police officer just go to Alaba and go and be running after pirates? Does the police officer know where the pirates are and how they operate? But the industry people know. So, but they must work with the law enforcement agencies. They must work with the government. There are some government agencies. Copyright, there is a copyright commission, for instance.
We'll come back to talk about this. You were recently seen with the Nigerian Film and Censors Board, and we'll talk about some of the work you've done with them very soon. We'll quickly go to this break. We'll be right back. We'll come back and talk about Professor Sola Fosudo. Great
to have you back. You're still watching the Morning Show here on the Rise News. And we're still talking the creative industry in Nigeria with Professor Fosudo. We're talking about the industry and the many umbrella bodies trying to, guard them. What do you make of this? Because some would say, perhaps it can be streamlined. And let me ask you in your own opinion, if you had to change something about the Nigerian film industry in terms of content, in terms of regulation, talents, production, what would it be?
If you had to change something. Well, one major thing that I've always talked about is that anyone who wants to be part of this industry must be trained. When you are trained, your way of thinking will change. Your ideas will be different from those who are just, selfish, who are thinking only about themselves, who are not thinking about the profession and the future of the profession. So once you have a lot more trained people, then they can they begin to discuss ideologies, concepts, philosophies that will guide the future of the industry. Now, some of the guilds, it is true that there are so many of them, but I don't really want to criticize the number of the guilds because the actors need to protect themselves. The directors truly need to protect themselves, and so on and so forth. But what they now need is a regulatory council where there will be representatives of the guilds in that council. Council, usually is, formed by government, usually. So apart from what they are forming, all these guilds that they are forming amongst themselves, the council is the one that government will recognize more, and they will have representatives there. And they can now talk globally. They will not be talking about actors alone, about directors alone. They will be talking collectively about the industry. And they will be able to solve a lot of problems.
Okay, before we went on the break, just for continuity's sake, the question was about the Nigerian Film and Censors Board, how they can help with harmonizing the guilds and how all of them can come together. And what has been the role of the Nigerian Film and Censors Board?
The Censors Board cannot, harmonize or regulate the guilds. That's not their job, really. But they are working in partnership with many of them to empower them, to give enlightenment programs and all that. But the major job of the Censors Board is to censor and classify films, and then also regulate the distribution of the films, how they are marketed and how they go to the various, markets or locations where they will be seen by audiences. That's the work of Censors Board, really. But they are also working with the guilds, because we had some collaboration with the Censors Board recently in LASU, and most of the associations and guilds were there. And
how many of them now?
The guilds
and associations, yeah.
I don't have the data. I don't have the data.
But they're well over 5, 10?
More than 5.
More than 10?
Well, I don't have the accurate figure. I don't have the accurate figure.
Okay.
But
let's talk about philanthropy. That is one thing you also do. The Blessed Fruit Foundation was set up by you.
By the grace of God.
10 years ago or more?
11 years ago.
11 years ago. What was this about and why? What was it about?
Well, it was a call, between 2006 and 2007, I became a bit more reflective about life generally. And I
when
was...
you turned 60?
When I was going to turn 50.
Okay.
When I was going to turn 50. So I thought about many things, about life, and I thought that, look, there is need to give back. There is need to touch lives more and to add value to society and to humanity. And in my quiet moments, of reflection, I got the message, spiritually, that I should do something to support widows and orphans. And I decided to use my 50th in 2008 to launch the foundation. And that was, I thank God that, we have, God has sustained the foundation of.
So how do you support them? What do you do for them?
We have several intervention programs. The major one is the empowerment program. We facilitate loans, soft loans for them through microfinance banks. Okay. Those of them who are still agile and want to do business. And we've been doing that for the past 8 years now. 2 years after the foundation, was launched, we started the program of this, we call it a business empowerment program. They apply, and we get the loans from 50,000 to 300,000 every year. And they pay only the principal sum. The foundation pays the interest, So, and we've been doing that. God has been helping us with the program. We also have what we call the welfare program. Every season, Salah, Easter, Christmas, we buy a lot of foodstuff and household items and distribute to all of them.
Recurring story with the widows and the orphans. I believe this is based in Lagos.
Based in Lagos. But we have a chapter. We have chapters in Calabar and Abuja.
What is the recurring story from widows and orphans in Nigeria?
Well, it's so pathetic. Many of them come to the office to narrate how they've been, badly or wickedly treated by their family members, by their in-laws, the moment their husbands died, and how they've been denied access to the property of the man, and how sometimes they are being taunted, and, all kinds of stories. And in fact, there was a particular one that we went to court to get her property back from her junior brother. The junior brother wanted to, take hold of the building. And she came to report to us, and we got our lawyers to go to court. Eventually, the case was judged, and the property was returned to the widow. So there are so many of such, that we also do through legal interventions. The orphans is a different story entirely. We've had situations where, we are taking care of a particular widow, not one now, not two, and then the widow herself will die, and then the children, orphaned. And because we're just trying to build our orphanage now. We're going to move in there by August or September. But in the past, we didn't have any building. So when those children are orphaned, we had to go and rent, rooms and places where we can keep them, and also send to the family of the widow from the east. Most of them. I mean, those of them who are, from the east, send their family members to come and take care of the children, that we have rented those apartments for. But along the line, all kinds of stories. Some of the caregivers will bolt away. And so we face so many things.
How do you get funding for all of this? Because funding is another very important thing. And since you've sustained this for over 10 years now, how's that journey been?
My brother, it's not been easy. Personal funds and funds from my friends and collaborators. We have some people that we call patrons and benefactors, who are my church members or my friends, and they've been supporting the foundation.
Let me ask you, how do you juggle all of this? Professor, acting roles, used to producing, and the foundation. How do you juggle all of that?
Does it direct at all? No.
Do you direct?
I direct for stage.
Okay. So how do you do all of this?
Well, I don't know. I think it's God, naturally. Anything that nobody has any power, it's not by power, not by might, but by the Spirit of God, by the grace of God. Anything anyone achieves in life, anything you do, if you have God with you, guiding you, directing you, leading you, giving you inspiration, I think you'll be able to do a lot of things. I even want to do more.
Yes.
I think I'm not as busy as governors. Most of these politicians, they don't sleep. I still sleep.
And that brings me to my next question. 2 quick questions. We've seen stars in Nollywood go into politics. Is that something you plan to do in the future? Secondly, which roles would you never take now that you're a professor? Would you turn down any role?
No. As an actor, you don't turn down roles, really.
Even if it's against your religious inclination? Take for instance, if you're told to play a middle-aged man with homosexual tendencies?
Well, is it real? The question to ask is that, is it real? Or it's make-believe? Okay. Acting is acting.
Do they know it's make-believe? Do people watch it know it's make-believe?
Yeah, but you make them to believe, the illusion. So, I mean...
So you're not turn down any role? You will not turn down any role now?
I can't remember that I've turned down a role, but you see, before any producer or director, approaches you for a role, the kind of person that you are, your personality also matters.
And the politics?
I'm not sure I want to do mainstream politics.
Okay.
But it's not a bad idea if I get appointed to serve, in government, particularly in my area, either in culture sector or educational sector. It's not a bad idea.
Because you fit the bill.
I won't refuse that.
You fit the bill, Professor Sola Fosudo.
God can do anything. God will do it.
So we should go out there to see you when Blings of
the Bling Lagosian.
The Bling Lagosian.
It's in the cinemas right now, and most of the actors in the film have been helping to push to get audience to see it. The producer actually asked me, if I get to talk about the film here, to thank all those who have gone to see the film, and to recommend the film to everyone. Okay. It's a film to watch. It's the film of the season, the Bling Lagosians.
Okay.
Nothing like it yet in Nollywood.
Thank you so much, Professor Sola Fosudo.
My pleasure.
I grew up calling you Sola Fosudo, but now Professor Sola.
I grew up calling him Uncle Sola.
It's the same thing,